Okay, all right. I think it's about time to get things, my focus, rolling here. It is November 16th, 2021. My name's Scott Weldon, and this is the public monthly meeting of South Carolina NORML, the state chapter of the South Carolina State Chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Excuse me. Again, my name's Scott Weldon. I'd like to welcome everybody that's either on the call with me now and or watching us on our YouTube live stream. Also welcome anybody who might be watching on YouTube as a recording later on. Mentioning YouTube, I do like to point out that, arrange my mess. During the live stream, we are not monitoring the comments in the YouTube channel. But if you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them down below off to the side, wherever you put the comments on these things, depending on your device. And once YouTube is done rendering the video, usually in about 24 to 48 hours, we will revisit the comment section and see if we can address your questions, comments, and or concerns. So again, welcome to the monthly meeting of South Carolina NORML, the state chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Let me grab my agenda. Oh, actually, before I do that, I need to do one other thing here, which is our monthly disclaimer, or meeting disclaimer, that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All right, let me close a couple other windows here. And open up just one more. Bear with me a moment. Let me quick find this for y'all. There we go. All right, as we usually do at our monthly meetings, we're going to start off talking a little bit about what's going on in legislative news, and things are cooking more than I've ever seen them. State legislative news, chapter business, committee reports, upcoming events, and take it from there. So starting tonight, the hot topic is Nancy Mace, a congresswoman from South Carolina, has just proposed a descheduling bill at the federal level in the House, in the Congress. She's started this with, I believe, 5 co-sponsors. We won't get too deep into it, but it's hot and in the news, so we will talk about what's going on with Nancy at the moment. Funny enough, I tend to scroll through their Facebook page sometimes just to try and find out. There's what I'm looking for. Nancy's bill is called the States Reform Act. And if you go to our blog at scnormal.org, you can click on a couple of our blog posts there. One of them is the link to the full text of the Reform Act. I will apologize right off the bat to anybody who may have visited this within the first 24 or so hours. I actually had the wrong link in and it did not go to the full text. That has been since fixed. So you can go and to our blog on our website, scnormal.org, and click on the story about the full text. You'll find hopefully I've made it pretty obvious and now the correct link in it down at the bottom. One of the graphics that we've been sharing is one that's been provided by her media group. I just want to open up this image so I can look at it. And the one piece of that she's shared is an overview. What I'm going to do is just I'm going to do this 2 ways. I'm going to drop a link of it into the chat in case anybody wants to link on it. And I'll share screen here for a moment with this. All right, that should be able to be shared there. There is also a link, I believe, on one of the stories on our blog about where you can go watch the video. You can watch her press conference from, I would almost say the Step of Congress. I think they call it the Triangle area. A little bit windy, so there was a lot of wind noise in the announcement, but there is a link to it. You can find it also through her YouTube channel. But these are some of the key points that they hit on: the protect the children, that it schedules, that it protects each state's unique laws and reforms, protects veterans, supports business, a 3%, and I think it's a 3.5% federal excise tax, safe criminal justice reform, and regulate like alcohol. So I'm going to turn off share again for the moment. So that's kind of her. Oh, I just hit a button I probably shouldn't have. I don't know what I just did. I think I've lost my camera.
You're looking fine on my end.
Oh, now I see it.
I can see you,
I
okay.
just happened to, I changed my view. All right. Anyway, now I see that. It jumps around from screen to screen when I do that. What I'm going to do now is just quick go grab that blog post for you, and I will share it so the folks can go, and if they like, can go follow the link to the full text. All right. There's been a lot of support. I haven't dug down real far into it. Her video does talk about, and what's not on her little checklist, there's protections for home growing, which is something that a lot of our supporters are looking for. That's actually in all three of the bills, the MORE Act and the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. So big news from South Carolina is Nancy Mace. I was clued in on this a couple of months ago through her and her district director. Hadn't heard back anything until the release in the Marijuana Moment article. And now it's been the talk of the town for the past couple of days. Because I believe we heard about it last Friday or Saturday, and then she had her press release on Monday, yesterday. So I did very late in the game, was able to share a link to the live stream for that. On my own home computer, I had her YouTube channel open, hoping that they would live stream through there, and then they did. So that was a big plus, something I'll probably kind of keep in mind for the future if there's any other press releases on this. And yeah, anyway, any questions, comments on the MACE Act at the moment? Okay. Okay, the one thing I do like to point out on that, which we're not really thrilled about, is, and you'll find that in that Marijuana Moment article, which I don't have the link to in front of me. I bet you can find it though. So many tabs open, I get lost. Oh, I don't have that link, but here is the link that I do want to share for Mace's bill, and that is to contact your legislators. Contact your representatives, should I say, and ask them to also support Nancy Mace's bill. It's definitely got worth consideration. The conversation I was listening to within the past couple of days, one of the big complaints about the Cannabis Administration Act, and I believe it's similar in the MORE Act in the taxing structure, but the Cannabis Administration Act starts at 5% and goes up to incrementally over time up to 25% for, now that's the full tax rate, but they do have a tax rebate for the first 20 million of 50%. So what that means is if you're a grower and you grow $20 million worth of product, your tax on that will be half of the highest rate at the time. If it's 5% to start, on that first 20 million, the tax is 2.5%. It's the 20 million and first dollar and up that are receive the full 5%. And then again, as that program implements and the tax rate gets up to, if it would go to 25%, which is where it's written, that first 20 million is only 12.5%. It's the 20 million and first dollar and up that is the full tax rate of 25%. And excuse me, one of the reasons for that is to try and keep, to benefit the small business, the small grower, to try and get, I mean, I picture the marijuana market as it matures to be very similar to the craft brewing, craft beer kind of market. And you'll have local small craft growers and producers throughout the region. Just like you may go to, the local brew pub type of place that's brewing their own beer. There might be, I visualize call it a grow pub. Might be able to peek into their grow rooms or see them at least on camera, be able to select, from their bar, just like you would to a brew pub. So that's how I sort of picture it. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and again, that's usually how I describe it. And that's the way we'd like to see it. Maybe I'm a little idealistic. Maybe I've got my rose-colored glasses on, that it won't be huge corporations that come sweeping in and take over the market. And in essence, probably make more of a generic product and take away a lot of the variety. I'd hate to see that kind of stuff happen. But anyhow, that's our little bit of discussion there on Representative Mace's introduction. There is again a link. If you didn't get it, you can just chime me and I will. I don't know why I can't see anything here except my own picture. I bumped something on my keyboard or whatever, I don't know. All right. Let's get out of full screen mode. The one thing I did want to talk about is she does still permit for drug testing, pre-employment drug testing for federal employees, and random drug testing of federal employees. And as we know, this is just basically still a clutching on to Reagan administration era, 1986. I forget the name of the legislation, requiring drug testing at federal for federal contractors and federal employees. There has been no evidence to prove that, first off, that testing for cannabinoids indicates impairment at all. And secondarily, it hasn't shown to be able to, it's inaccurate. It's just not, it still just continues and grasps onto that discrimination. Like I say, there's been no evidence to show that it's made a workplace safer or more dangerous. Should I say, the drug testing hasn't made the workplaces safer. It's just discriminating against cannabis consumers. So that's our biggest problem with the MACE bill. That's something that should be addressed. Again, it's just been introduced. Amendments can be made. My comment, my thoughts for now, though, is if you are in a Republican House member area, write to your legislator, follow the link I shared here in to contact your representatives. And now, mind you, I'm in Mace's district, and so if I would just sort of fill this out, it's going to address it to Nancy Mace. And so this particular system, it wouldn't be the way to do it. As a representative of a state organization, I will probably have us draft some supportive type document. I would love to see it sent out to all of the other House members here in the state. There's a total 7, so the other 6. 5 of those 6 remaining are all Republican. The only Democratic House representatives in our state is Clyburn, kind of the next district over. I wouldn't see why he wouldn't sign on at some point, but I'd sooner. Right now, we've got 3 marijuana legislation bills, descheduling bills, that we kind of like moving forward. There is a 4th one that's a descheduling only and does not include some of the other language in the tax rates and things like that. The social, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not social equities. I forget the exact word I'm looking for. But the harm reduction of it. So we have Moore's bill, which is the State Reform Act. Comments I hear locally, not going to do anything to change it at state level here, and that's true. It will not make any difference descheduling at federal level, no matter what bill it is, whether it's the Moore Act, whether it's the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. Legalization or descheduling at federal level will do nothing to change the South Carolina state constitution. But it will hopefully help grease the wheels and pave the way. I've heard, like I say, different feedback over the past few days. One of them, actually, I did post to our website earlier, and that was the representative of the Republican Party chair's response. What's his name? Drew Kizik. He's the chair of the South Carolina Republican Party, and his statement, as I read it here, is, "Our party platform is clear. We support firm enforcement of existing laws against the abuse and distribution of controlled substances, and we oppose any efforts to legalize the use of controlled substances, and that includes marijuana." So that's Drew McKissick, that is the chair of the South Carolina Republican Party. Many of you may remember last election cycle, 2020, during the primaries on the South Carolina Democratic ticket, there was a marijuana question, and isn't the first time that question's been on the Democratic ballot here in South Carolina. Somewhat inaccurately phrased, but the question for the most part was, Would you support doctors prescribing medical marijuana here in South Carolina? And as we know, doctors can't prescribe, but they can recommend. So it's just a little wording thingy. And I heard quite a bit of grumbling, I guess would be the way to put it, from some of our Republican supporters saying, why wasn't that question on the Republican bill as well? Why didn't we get to answer that question? And excuse me, Drew McKissick. That's why his response to the question when he was asked why wasn't it on their ballot? Why wasn't we asking their party? He says it's not important to our party, and he hasn't evolved in his thinking, obviously, based on this. And this is his third time being elected to that seat. I don't know if he's actually a legislator or if he's just, I'm assuming, elected there by other party members. It's not, I don't think it's a public election. I'd have to look into that a little bit more. I tried to this afternoon and bad health day. I just was not focusing. Anyhow, Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina party, shows no support for this South Carolina congressman and this marijuana descheduling legislation. So again, when people say what will happen at the state level or at the state level if this happens to pass at the federal level, we're still pretty much in the same battle. We've got maybe a little bit of information, more positive grease to lube the wheels. One of the biggest complaints that I hear from legislators is, well, it's not FDA approved, it should be FDA approved, or there's not enough research, and there should be more research. And mind you, there's plenty of research. There just hasn't been permitted research in the U.S. So a lot of the research that there's out there came from outside the U.S. And that, again, is because the DEA controls who's allowed to do the research. And then if you are doing the research, you're only allowed to do it with marijuana grown at the University of Mississippi, which is considered by, I guess, people in the know to be pretty much consistent with ditchweed. And thirdly, the FDA doesn't approve whole plants. It is it approves compounds, and it can approve, and it doesn't do the research. And the start to get FDA approval starts with research. So if you get the DEA blocking research, you can't do the research to even try and submit anything to the FDA. So this to me is a kind of a catch-22, and it's a smokescreen that I believe a lot of legislators use, because if they're not aware, they should be aware. But I believe that they're aware that there's these roadblocks by the DEA put in place to even trying to attempt to submit research to the FDA for approval. So, and that's all caused by the Controlled Substances Act. So by removing it from the Controlled Substances Act, you'll remove control of the research from the DEA, being able to allow research to be done. We were talking about this earlier. Let me just go back and find my search. One of the controlling bodies that they want to have sort of controlling, and this is, I believe, in all the acts, is the TTB, which is the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Regulate Trade Bureau, as well as the USDA, Department of Agriculture. Makes sense. We don't need the FDA involved. It's a plant. It's a whole plant. Regulate like tobacco. The FDA hasn't approved alcohol or tobacco for anything either. So regulate like alcohol and tobacco for the most part, like tobacco and or alcohol, I think is usually the cry. That's more tightly regulated. But the one thing I would say in that is, don't regulate like tobacco, because I don't believe people can grow their own tobacco. I mean, they may be able to. But all three, I'll mention this again, all three of the bills the States Reform Act, the MORE Act, and the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act all include protections for home grow. Let's go ahead and move on. We'll move away a little bit from the Mace States Reform Act conversation, talk a little bit more about the MORE Act. What I'm going to do here is again share a link in the chat here. And not a whole lot of news going on for the MORE Act since September 30th when it was voted out of committee. There have been a couple of new sponsors that have joined and a couple of old sponsors from previous that have rejoined as co-sponsors on the MORE Act. Our hope at this point is that other committees that may be involved with this will waive their hearings on the bill and allow it to go to a full floor vote. The last time the MORE Act went to vote, it was, my eyes are getting old. It passed by 128 to 64. All but 6 of the Democrats in Congress voted for it. And this is the House bill, voted for it. And some of those Democrats did not return. It's got a good chance of passing the House floor. Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, on the other hand, as you all know, was released as a draft legislation earlier this year. I want to say July. Left it for open comment through, actually maybe it was earlier than that, early June. Open comment period was, I believe, ended September 1st. And not a whole lot's been happening since. Rumor has it it'll probably work on being rewritten, redrafted over the next couple of months and be reintroduced in sometime early next year. So that was COA. I don't even know if I don't have a action alert for COA. All right, let me just go back to where I was. Last I think I have to talk about at federal level. I just want to double check myself here. Yeah, the only other thing notably that's been happening that right now has been the Safe Banking Act. The Safe Banking Act was recently attached to the NDAA, which is a national defense funding bill. So that will go through because national defense funding always goes through. And I guess right now with what's going on with the 3 descheduling bills, it's just going to be a matter of a race to the top. You know, it's going to be up to the voters to kind of push it. As been discussed on the Monday Marijuana Moment with Justin Streckel, our political director at state level, or at national level. Right now, it's sort of taking the air out of the room for moving this forward, for any of this legislation forward, is the Reconstruction Act that's hemming things up for us. But his comment today, and I really take heart to this one, his comment, well, it wasn't today, it was on Monday, was that marijuana has taken is now a rather important subject. We might not be in the top 3, but definitely the top 10. And so to be in that top 10 as far as priority type subjects, that's rather I said you're kind of cold tonight, but that's rather heartwarming to me, because we definitely want to see some of this legislation start moving forward. And where are we at here? And I've talked about a half hour for mostly a national, so I am going to switch it up just a little bit. Before I do switch it up, any questions on any of these? And I will share one more link. This is NORML National's action page. If you scroll about halfway down, you'll see the what they call other federal priorities, which is where you'll find the Veterans Access Bill, immigration to cannabis consumption shouldn't deny citizenship, so gun rights, the Joyce Bill, all kinds of fun stuff down in there. So follow that and contact your legislators on all of it. State level. It's a little confusing because we have Nancy here right here in my own backyard. It feels like state level a topic sometimes, but it's not. State level is nothing as far as legislation moving forward, but we are now in the beginning of the 2022 election cycle. We have a gubernatorial election coming up in South Carolina. We have 3 candidates vying for the Democratic position, a candidate to be the candidate for the generals. We have Gary Vitor, we have Mia McLeod, we have Joe Cunningham. Most of you probably have heard of Joe. He was the congressman in District 1, Nancy Mace's position. She beat him in the last elections. He's now running for governor. He had a news announcement earlier this year about his pro-marijuana policy involved in his campaign. Mia McLeod, although she hasn't released much more, and I did speak with some of her folks a few months back about helping maybe developing her marijuana policy. But she hasn't said a lot more about it, but we do know that she's a co-signer of the medical bill, and she has also sponsored decriminalization legislation here in the state. Of course, Democratic legislation tends not to go anywhere unless I think the voters get really, really vocal about it, which we may have to do soon. With the elections coming up, there are some both federal and state level candidates. We do know that there is a candidate now recently announced in the past week running against Nancy Mace for the 1st Congressional District. And actually, I was on a conversation today with a candidate for the 2nd Congressional District here in South Carolina. His name is Judd Larkins. And the 2nd Congressional District seat is currently held by Joe Wilson. Joe Wilson on our NORML voter guide has received a D-. The people sometimes will say, well, why don't you just give him an F? The way our rubric works is to get an F, you actually have to sponsor and or co-sponsor and or, I guess, vote for anti-marijuana legislation. So it hasn't gotten to that point, but otherwise he's about as low on marijuana support as we could get him. Now, it's still probably going to be an uphill battle. This is a Midlands area, I believe slightly west of Columbia, and at this point, there's no other contenders in that race, but we have a very conservative voter base throughout the state, so marijuana may or may not push him over the line, and I doubt it will. It's going to have to be a whole package, and that's why I mentioned even a few months back when Cunningham announced, and a lot of folks are going, is that all he's running on? That's going to be his policy or his campaign? stuff. No, you visit their website. They'll usually have a broader, more information, especially as you get closer and closer to primary dates. Uh, Primary dates. I did learn something new today. If you've been on the conversation with me often, you've probably heard me say that they haven't selected a primary date for 2022 yet here in South Carolina. Um, I'm always told they tend to be early in June so they can have the runoff by late June. Um, I did find out there has been a primary date selected for 2022, and that will be June 14th here in South Carolina. June 14th will be primaries. So we'll see how that plays out. Otherwise, state level, we are keeping our eye out. As you all know, there was local elections recently. A lot of them were for different city council members. I'm kind of giving a little bit of time for the dust settle. I'm not sure exactly when they get sworn in. I have to look into that. But as you may know from our conversation, our chapter or South Carolina chapter of NORML is looking to start trying to push for decriminalization at the municipal level, hopefully by having it suggested and brought up by the city or town council members instead of having to do the voter initiative where you need to do the petitions and collect 15% of the voters' signatures. Depending on the areas, maybe it's not too hard to collect those signatures, but I've found it's quite challenging. So I think the easier battle is to find supportive city and town council members who understand that decriminalization is not legalization, but it is harm reduction. And that's hopefully our message to all of those type of folks is it's not legalization, it's harm reduction. All we're doing is affecting the penalty phases. I've heard horror stories of people being locked up for a seed in their car's ashtray or a little stained, burnt piece of paper. No actual marijuana, but the stained, burned piece of paper tested positive with one of those wonderful roadside tests that we know are just so accurate. But anyway, now that the smoke is settling on that election, we'll see the 2022 cycle start ramping up. We'll start reaching out to other candidates. Say the candidate I was talking to today, again, federal level, but they're interested in getting more information, whether it's drafting similar legislation or just having that as part of their overall campaign philosophy, that they'll join in on this type of legislation. All good. So if you happen to know of any elections coming up in your area, coming up through the start of our cycle here in South Carolina, reach out to us. We are asking National to update our candidate questionnaire with some of the information on it, but it is still valid, and we're going to be starting to distribute that shortly, making the event, the link for that hopefully available on our website, that folks can grab it, share it, send it to their legislator and say, hey, would you answer this questionnaire? We want to know your position on marijuana. That information will get aggregated to our voters guide. And hopefully we get some, it gives us a lot better information too on who to discuss these different programs with. I know there's some pro-cannabis and or pro-decriminalization, should I say, the harm reduction candidates that have never even answered the questionnaire. So again, that's someone that I'm going to start targeting with this, the questionnaire, and try and get our voter guide filled out. Because now we have at least a primary date of the June 14th. So that gives us a goal to shoot for and start getting some of this info, start finding out who these candidates are. And then, of course, after that, moving towards the generals in November. Last but not least, where am I time-wise? I'm not too bad here. I'm at 7:41. I just want to double-check agenda for tonight. Any questions on state legislative news? All righty. Yeah, I think that's the biggest info for state legislative is just upcoming elections. Chapter business is kind of next on our agenda here. Chapter business, we're sort of, I want to say I'm sort of floundering a little bit at the moment. I was having some hopes on starting to get together a rally type press conference thing up at the Capitol in early in the season. I want to say January, may make it, even in early February, but this past year with the pandemic, we kind of did a lobby week, and hopefully, what I was trying to do that week, and I kind of vaguely remember I wasn't well that week, so I didn't hit every day, but it was every day to sort of do a post out to our social media, giving you an opportunity to contact our legislators, either different methods and or different messages throughout that week. What I'd like to do is something very similar this year, and do a lobby week. Last year we did it, I believe, the first going in maybe the second week of February. I'd like to get it end of January to early February, and in that lobby week time, hopefully the Wednesday of that lobby week, actually have a day at the Capitol. My problem is, my struggle is, I've never done that before. I don't exactly know where to start. I tried to reach out to a couple of organizations that I know have been there at the Capitol and done some stuff, and I wasn't really getting a whole lot of information, I guess, that I was looking for. I don't know what exactly info I'm even looking for, but so I'm not quite sure where we are with that right now. The other thing is we were, again, recently at an event, the first time that we actually had a booth set up anywhere in almost a year and a half, 2 years. It's been a while. And it felt great. It felt great to get out. I've been seeing some comments on our social media. Are you going to be going out to other locations? And I'd like to. I'd like to, but I'm just not sure what locations to get to right now. We have been randomly doing, little farmers markets and things like that right here in the Charleston area when we were permitted to. Even some of those are challenging to get them to permit you to come and advocate and have a politically based stand. We've been out on the side of the road here and there, but I'd really like to see if we can find any other of these type of party rallies, whatever you want to call them, similar to what the Charleston Dems did. We'd be more than happy to attend, no matter what the party is. Of course, finance is a bit of a concern. Oftentimes there are not a whole lot of money, but sometimes it is a concern, and we'll have to ask for your donation. Excuse me again, to help us, fund those vendor fees is generally what they are. But chapter news wise, that's kind of where we are. Is not sure with that. So we're going to just kind of try and keep up as much of our virtual and I guess remote lobbying, writing to our senators, calling our senators, the senators and our congressmen and all of our representatives, and trying to get as much information that we can to share with you all out there. Last but not least on my checklist, I think I had one more thing listed there. I just clicked a button I shouldn't have. All right, there we go. Oh, no, that was kind of it on there. Committee reports, we don't really have any committees reporting at the moment, and upcoming events. As I just mentioned, oh, I do want to talk about in chapter businesses, I usually like to try and talk to. We are always looking for volunteers to help us out here, especially somebody who, we're looking for two positions, I think, right now that would really be beneficial to us, would be a membership coordinator and a volunteer coordinator. We've created a couple of forms where we, databases where we can collect some volunteer information, but then we just don't quite know what to do with it. And we do have a system for sort of tracking our members. And I was just preparing to sort of do an email blast out to all of our membership, and I realized that apparently last time I thought I set up the system to do that, I didn't do it correctly. So I'm back in the system trying to do that. Our members should be receiving a special discount coming out in the email soon. Free shipping on their membership renewal for 2022, and anything they want to add to the order comes along, no shipping charge. So keep an eye out for your email for that in your email. If you are a member and you don't get the email, let me know. I'll double check the system, make sure I either have it loaded in right, but let me know. And with that mentioned, we do have our new 2022 memberships available on the website. Just got live the other day. Behind me here, we have a new version of our badge. A little bit of a contact info and stuff on the back. And so they just came in. We've also kind of added a new, what did I call it, enthusiast package. So we still have our basic membership, $30. We have our sustainer membership, which includes the same as the basic, which is your badge and a couple of postcards to mail out to your legislators. Plus, in the sustainer, you'll get a T-shirt and see if I can show you my fancy South Carolina NORML T-shirt and the enamel leaf pin. I don't think I have one on the desk. And I think that includes one other item, a sticker, small round sticker or something like that. And then we have our enthusiast package, which that includes the T-shirt and the sticker and the postcards and the enamel pin and a whole bunch of other stuff. Our board game, variety, I think, of different stickers because we've now sort of added other stickers to the list. Oh, our new, let's see if I can show you these real quick. Dog tags. I have one with a silencer on, one without. And I don't know how clear something like that will come up on the screen. I think they're cool with the little embossed pot leaf on them. They're embossed with South Carolina scnormal.org, legalize marijuana, and drug war veteran. So they come with the big long chain and a short chain for the second tag. They do come with the silencers. I was just having trouble getting the silencers on. I'd probably recommend soaking them in warm water or something before stretching them on if you happen to get those. And a bunch of other goodies. Visit our website to check out what all's in that package. There's a bunch of stuff. Also, though it hasn't been announced yet, we will be doing a drawing similar to how we did last year for all of our new members. We'll probably run that through, I believe, January 14, the middle of January. I'm sorry, February 14. We usually run it about the first 6 weeks of the year. And be entered in there for some kind of bonus along with your membership. That's it. I think I said that before, but I think that's it for the moment. Any questions or comments about the memberships or about shipping by the holidays or anything like that?
I was just going to say really quickly that I'm also excited about just kind of like where this direction's going. I feel like we're getting talked about a bit more and just exciting stuff.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think we're starting to, well, South Carolina is kind of in the news at the moment, and we did have that little bit of heads up with the leak last week, and so Justin at National asked if I would give a little quote, being a constituent in her community, and that was a good portion of some of the post. One of the posters he shared on a couple of social media sites. So I've been having a little bit of fun, sort of watching those blow up and having a quote on a national media source, I guess you would call it. But yeah, I'm really excited how things are moving along, and I'm seeing that. I don't remember, Kristen, if you spoke to Sydney, this Judd Larkin's assistant at the Blue Jam, or if I did, or if we both did. But
Probably.
I may be inviting you in on another one of our conversations, or connecting you with her at some point as well, because I think you give it a little bit different perspective than I do sometimes, and that's a good thing to have a different perspective. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I will probably, on one of my next emails to them, I will copy you on it. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, that's it for tonight. Tomorrow night, we will be probably doing a little bit more of a deep dive on the Nancy Mace bill, because I just know a bunch of our cannabis conversation listeners are going to want to talk about that. So if you get a chance, tune on in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for the South Carolina Cannabis Conversation. Otherwise, we will be here again next month, the third Tuesday of the month, to have our last monthly meeting of the year. And I'm actually going to check my calendar to see when that is. The 21st, a couple of days before Christmas, we're going to have our last monthly meeting of the year. I'm having some thoughts on how to maybe start incorporating that monthly meeting into our Wednesday night meetings. So we don't be having to come back here. I come in on Monday nights for our board meetings and Wednesday nights for the cannabis call. And if I can do away with this Tuesday one and just sort of blend it with a Wednesday one next year, I think we're going to do that. It may end up being that the third Wednesday call is going to be our monthly meeting, but we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. Otherwise, that's all I have for you tonight. If you want to reach out to us, try our social media on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel in case you missed the calls. You can always watch the recording there. Oh, that's going to be exciting. And don't forget, visit our website at normalsc.org. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and make sure that you're subscribed to our newsletter. That's all I have for you tonight, folks. Thank you for joining me, and we will be back here again tomorrow night at 7, and for a monthly meeting the 21st of December. Take care. Have a great one. We'll talk to you.